What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty P here with another episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm here today to talk about a potential trade candidate or trade target location for the Steelers' backup center and guard. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Kendrick Green. That's right, the much maligned Kendrick Green, picked by the Steelers a few drafts ago in the third round. I was picked that no one really wanted to see. There it was 2021. A lot of people didn't like him. I actually predicted he'd be picked by the Steelers. Hasn't really turned out to be everything we wanted to be. Trialed at fullback this year. I actually believe a trade candidate for him or a trade location for him, depending on what terminology you want to use, has emerged in the last 24 to 36 hours. And that team is actually a team the Steelers have played in the preseason, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, after their last preseason game, actually had Ryan Jensen, their starting center, who's about 32 years old, to the point that some have feared that he's played his last snap in the NFL. He was basically had a season-ending knee injury and will be placed on IR as the rules go. If you get put on IR in the preseason, you're not eligible to play during the season. And so, with that in mind, is this a potential landing location, for want of a better terminology, or landing spot for Kendrick Green? Now, if we look at this, let's look at the Steelers depth chart first. Dan Moore Jr., Broderick Jones are the left tackles. Dan Moore Jr. could potentially play on the right. You've got Seumalo, Kevin Dotson at left guard. Seumalo, when he was drafted, was actually potentially going to be a center in the league. If you go back and watch the highlights when he was drafted, they talked about him in the NFL being a center. Mason Cole is obviously our starting center. It's the backup that's the challenge. Now, Ryan McCollum, this is one of the first depth charts that they put out there, the Steelers. It's not an updated depth chart since they started making cuts to get to the 53, which we're going to see over the next 24 to 48 hours, again, depending on what time you watch this channel and this show. Spencer Anderson and Ryan McCollum played most of the game against the Atlanta Falcons, so they're definitely trialing him there. Kendrick Green basically played right guard. Nate Herbig's played a little bit of center. And then Spencer Anderson is sort of the Swiss Army knife, who I think originally was a lock for the practice squad. Now I think he's actually going to make the squad. I actually like him at right guard, but you get the feeling the Steelers want to turn him into a center. Needless to say, between Herbig, Anderson, McCollum, and Seumalo, they've probably got enough there to fill in if they have to, if something happens to Cole. Likewise, I said earlier on in the 53 show that we released over the weekend when Mark and I predicted the Steelers 53, I said that I felt this was the weakest link on the offense that the Steelers needed to fix. I still think that. And look, a lot of the cuts and waivers that happens from teams, this could mean that they fill that spot. But what about the Buccaneers? Why would we say, well, let's trade away the Steelers' backup center guard if and basically the center with the most center experience beside Mason Cole? Why would we trade the person if we don't have someone to fill the spot that we can trust? Well, see, the problem is the Buccaneers don't have anyone necessarily that they can fully trust. Now, if you look at their offensive line, Wirfs is obviously a gun tackle. There you've got on the other side, you've got Luke Gerdeke. He can play guard as well, but he's not a center. Cody Mock has been tried. Now, he was the much vaunted player in the draft this year. He was their third round pick. I think he was picking in the third round. But he can play all over the line, but center's not really where where you want to play him particularly. Now, he did play a bit of center at the Senior Bowl. But again, we saw what happened with Kendrick Green when he started for the Steelers. A rookie at center is a big proposition when it's not the position that you've played all the way through. Robert Haynes is their next step up. But really, again, he's played a little bit of guard. I think he's played a bit of tackle as well. Not really a lock for center. The Buccaneers need a center, particularly when you think about their quarterbacks. You think about Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask, John Wolford. John Wolford may or may not make it, but those guys need to get clean snaps. Now, you might be saying, well, that's not from Kendrick Green, but they need someone reliable here, and the Steelers have got people that can fill in. Honestly, you think about it as well. The Buccaneers have seen Kendrick Green. They've seen the fullback spot for Kendrick Green as well. When you look at fullback, they didn't list one out there. They listed double tight ends. I don't think their offense traditionally runs a lot of fullback, but hey, you can start running some sets if you've got a player that can do it. Anyway, I just think it's interesting that over the last 24 to 36 hours, a trade target's emerged for Kendrick Green to the point where he was a player we thought might be well cut and released. Maybe you can pick something up for him. A 6th or a 7th would be great. You pair a 6th or 7th with another player, you can go and keep multiplying guys. We know and multiplying picks moving up in the draft the next year. Trade for a future. Trade for the 2025 draft. Get something for Kendrick Green. If you're going to cut him, you may as well trade him. But it'll be interesting to see what happens over the course of the next sort of 48 hours or more as the Steelers cut down their roster and whether a trade target like this emerges amongst any teams. But as I say, don't rule it out. Kendrick Green to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.